cancer guarantee that you can see a specialist within 2 weeks, never have had the GP guarantee that you can see a GP at weekends or in the evenings. All of these were not supported by the Conservatives. They were delivered by the Labour Party, and all of them are again at risk if there is a Tory government tomorrow. And let us be honest, you might still be having your kids taught in porter-cabin classrooms, waiting for months for your operations in the NHS, and be without the largest police force ever in the neighbourhoods of our country. And if we continued with the on-your-own policies of the Tories, then we'd not be putting in place the boldest ever plans, side by side with the National Health Service, for a national care service for every one of our elderly. If we'd followed the advice of the Tories, we wouldn't be putting in place a new cancer guarantee to get your diagnostic tests within a week. If we followed the advice of the Tories, there'd be no new right for parents that you can get one-to-one tuition for your children. And if we followed the advice of the Tories, there would be no new link between pensions and earnings, which transforms the link that was repealed by the Conservatives in 1980. Now, nowhere is the contrast between Labour and Conservatives clearer and more threatening than we would look at child tax credits. Tax credits are not just there for the low-paid and the least skilled, but for teachers, police officers, the self-employed, nurses, people with a trade. Tax credits now extend to more than 6 million families and cover 20 million mothers, fathers and children. Tax credits that Labour introduced against a wall of indifference from the Liberal and the Conservative parties. These are tax credits that make the difference between subsistence and new clothes and books for your kids. The difference between struggling through and getting by with more childcare. The difference between getting by and having a family treat. Tax credits that at least hundreds of thousands of families will lose or see cut because of the policies of the Conservative and Liberal parties, who simply do not understand the change for families that tax credits have made. You know, I had one of the commentators, the media commenters, say that he keeps going on about tax credits. You know what I do and why I do it? That's because for so many families, they are the difference between going on and getting by and going under. And to so many hundreds of thousands of families, they mark the difference between whether your kids can go to school on the school trip, whether you can take a holiday for the first time, and whether you are ever able to buy your own home. And no public service at threat sums up the difference between the Conservatives and ourselves than the cancer guarantee. We are extending that to all cancer patients to help them all through the way when they're seeing their specialist. Specialists seen within 2 weeks, diagnostic tests within 1 week. For families, I know this is not a matter for indifference. The cancer guarantee is a matter of life and a matter of death. And I say any party that wants to remove the cancer guarantee, you will get the quickest and best treatment that we are giving. Any party that wants to remove that does not understand what the NHS means to the families of our country. So I tell you, the past is prologue, because I warn you, if the Tories have their way, social progress will be in reverse, and instead of advance, we will see retreat. And we cannot simply let that happen, because we have been building a country where, as a result of businesses and governments working together, we have in the last 13 years created, even after a recession, 2 million more jobs in this country. And every step of the way, we've had to stand up to the Conservative Party who refused to take action when we faced a recession. And are we not building, as a result of us working together, a nation where brilliant doctors and brilliant nurses and brilliant NHS staff, and here in this university, brilliant researchers, are armed with the resources to fight every day against ill health and disease? And every step of the way, we've had to stand up to the Conservatives who refused to back our investment in the National Health Service. And are we not building, as a result of working together, a nation of great headmasters and teachers and teaching assistants and school staff who, alongside the parents of Britain, do the most important job in the world, giving every child a chance and giving our nation a future. And yet every step of the way we have had to stand up to the Conservatives who even today want to cut the school's budget and risk our future. And are we not also building a country where community leaders, where voluntary groups, where care workers, where police officers and care assistants fight every day against antisocial behaviour, against isolation, against prejudice and injustice, but every step of the way they need to stand up to the Conservatives who want public services to retreat, who would be prepared to see police budgets cut and to see public services become something other than the services you choose as a community to do together. And are we not in this year, 2010, capable of building a fairer, a better, a stronger Britain? We're growing as a community from thousands of acts of compassion and friendship of service. We see every day public services not as the Tories would want them, a hand-me-down from the past, but a mark of how far we can progress as a civilized society in our time. Contrast everything we do to the tax cuts that the Tories want to give to the richest estates, 3,000 of whom would receive £200,000 each. The feeding of the 3,000, not an accident of policy, but a statement of Tory values that says that the more privileged you are, the more privileged, even as they at one and the same time will cut school budgets, cut tax credits, cut child tax funds, and cut the budgets for police. I know there are people who say or hope that the election is already over. But I tell you, tomorrow it is the time for the thousands of people to speak themselves. Tomorrow doesn't belong to the press, to the commentators, to the insiders, to the vested interests, or even to the political parties. Tomorrow your voice shall be heard, and your vote will determine the direction of our country. To those who are undecided, and I know there are many, let me say, after a huge global crisis that we had to fight against and overcome, it is right for people to ask what happened, to reflect on what was done, to turn this global crisis around, and what can be done to make sure that the global crisis never happens again. And as you reflect, I ask you to consider this. At every time in this global crisis, I have put the needs and interests of British people and British families first. Not the banks, not the financial institutions, not those at the top who don't want to pay their fair share, but I've put the British people first. For me, the British people have been and always will be my first priority. And I know I'm not the style candidate or the best PR man, and I know all the criticisms there have been of my presentation, but this is who I am. I tell you, adversity has been a teacher. Honesty has been my best guide, and faith in the future, the greatest source of my strength. So here we are, fired with new determination. We are full of energy and firm of purpose, because the values that are the core of a Labour Britain, your Britain, are now at stake and have to be fought for not only is the economic recovery at risk, but social justice is at risk too. And we are full of energy and purpose because we are on the road to renewing our economy so that we can build the new future of fairness and prosperity for all. And every second of the day and every inch of the way, I'm fighting so hard because I want 2010 not to be the year of Conservative cuts, but the end of the global recession. I'm fighting so hard because I want 2010 not to be the year Britain starts going backwards with the Conservatives, but the year when our NHS, our schools, and our police forces can move forward together. I'm fighting so hard because I want 2010 not to mark unemployment going up again, repossessions on the rise, or more small businesses facing again, as they did in the 1990s, closure. I want 2010, 2011, and 2012 to be the years of renewal and prosperity. And so I ask you, when you go into the polling booth, to ask yourself, who will stand up for you? Who, when the forces of privilege raise their voice, will raise their voice for you? Who, when the economy is on the line, will be your spokesman? Who will always put your standards of living first? Who will fight for your family because they know what it is to walk in your shoes? And I say with humility, I will. And so I ask you to stand up for the great values of the British people that will make this country what it can and should become. And with all my resolve, I pledge that I will always fight for you